here it is, the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, brought to you by our great friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your host today, Jesse Montano, alongside my very good friend AJ Haefele. AJ, haven't spoken to you on one of these in a while. How the hell are you doing? I mean, I know how you're doing because we talked before this started, but for formality purposes, how are you doing?
Dope.
Perfect. Love to hear.
No, I'm good, man. It's
beautiful day out today.
Is it?
It is. It's very nice out.
I was out this morning, but you know how things can change in Colorado.
Yeah. Oh, it was nice this morning. Is it snowing now?
Exactly. Like it's like, is it the apocalypse? I don't
know. Well, AJ, the Avs obviously wrapped up their first round series with the Nashville Predators 2 nights ago now. We had the post-game show right after Game 4, where I wasn't on it, but you guys did talk about the series and obviously the game. We're gonna get back into the series a little bit. You put out a great piece this morning, kind of doing a deep dive on how that series went, where the Avs really excelled, where Nashville struggled. One area where the Avs do still need a little bit of work. So we're going to get into that, but we all are also going to touch on the other series. This has been a crazy first round of the playoffs, kind of in a way like I've never seen before. Crazy in a way that you expected, but also how we've gotten to this point, I didn't expect at all. And that is pretty much universal around the league.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that here a little bit later in the show. But as always, we will start with the news of the day. And it really just kind of dropped, and it is not Avs related. Off day for the Avs. They will be back at practice tomorrow. We will be there. So we'll have all the updates for you guys. Well, I guess Jared Bednar did talk this morning on Altitude Sports Radio. Really kind of everything sounds the same. Darcy Kemper continues to get better. They're hoping the swelling is down enough by tomorrow. But league-wide news, Darnell Nurse suspended 1 game for headbutting Philip Deneau. My first question to you is, did you see the clip? And My second question is, what do you think of the suspension?
Yeah, let guys headbutt other guys. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of blown away, man, that there were people who were like, headbutting is just one of those things that, that the league doesn't have to deal with very often, so it doesn't know what to do and blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, he got 1 game. And that's where I'd be willing to bet you that they factored in where they are in the series, because if it was game 1 of the series,
yeah,
I feel like they could have given him 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
But because they were like, oh, it's the Oilers are facing elimination, we don't want to take Darnell Nurse away. Like, I don't know. I'm just really cynical about how they police this shit during the postseason now. And especially after the Kadri stuff last year, I'm always going to be a little touchy about it.
It's just a little weird because, I feel like we've heard, kind of what you are, what you're kind of outlining. It is weird how the NHL does kind of arbitrarily decide, and I mean, I guess there is some legitimacy to it, right? Where it's, well, this normally would have been a 2-game suspension, but instead it's 1 playoff game. Yeah. Well, something like this could have been 2 or 3, but it's an elimination game. So it's right. Like, sure, they mean more, absolutely, but it is just weird how they've kind of come up with that. And then again, to your point, you think about the Kadri stuff, and it's like, well, that was a lot of playoff games. So
yeah, you're talking about he got suspended.
It essentially says that the Kadri hit was.
Yeah, I mean,
it sends a message of that could have been a 20 game. Yeah,
right. So and like the one thing about with Kadri too is that, like, yeah, it's a bad hit. It was a suspendable hit, but again, he was playing hockey.
Right.
Like Darnell Nurse isn't that he's not making any attempt at a hockey play when he just headbutts the dude because he's mad. And I think those are the things that you have to police harder than the things that happen when guys are trying to make hockey plays and they make split-second decisions. Like, oh, I'm angry and I can't control myself, so I'm going to just headbutt a dude. What the fuck? What are we talking about here?
Right. The Kadri one, I mean, it's both guys moving at a really high rate of speed. Again, I'm not going to relitigate the Kadri thing, but to your point, you can at least make the argument, whether you want to hear it or not, you can make the argument that Kadri is trying to make a hockey play. The play from Darnell Nurse, for me, the best word for it is reckless at best. Even if you say that the headbutt wasn't the intention, it's like, well, holy shit. That's some pretty loosey-goosey, tying up in front of the net. But what do I know? Yeah.
And I just don't like, there's your hockey toughness. And then there's headbutting dudes.
That's just being tough, AJ.
Yeah, it really strikes you as really some coward shit to headbutt a guy like that.
For sure.
And I don't know, man. That to me, I'm like, this is an outrage. Like this is a thing that you should be really, really upset about. I say like this is an outrage, but it's like this is
within the context of
he earned a suspension easily. So
yeah. The Department of Player Safety also took a look at Zach Kassian from last night. He was fined $5,000 for cross-checking, I believe it was Jersey from the LA Kings. So Edmonton loses that game in overtime and loses Darnell Nurse for game 6. And Zach Kassian got in some trouble as well. We will circle back to Edmonton, LA. But first, AJ, you dropped a great piece this morning on the DNVR.com. Doing kind of a deep dive statistically and analytically into the Avs-Preds series. So let's touch on that just a little bit. Obviously, the Avs sweep Nashville. Most of the games were in pretty convincing fashion. First team in NHL history, I believe it was in NHL history, to score 20-plus goals and put more than 175 shots in a 4-game series. Jared Bednard's word to describe the first round was consistent. What is your word?
I think that's fair.
I agree. I thought that was a great word for it. Dominant, I think, also works. But consistent, I think, describes that entire series from game to game.
Yeah, I mean, consistent. I mean, you look how they played. Like at no point in Nashville's best shot in the series, they broke even. Yeah. Like in game 4, after the game, I saw both their fan base and their players and coach were like, "Oh, we played so much better in game 4. If only we'd been able to play like that all series." And it was like you still like the Avs
multiple goals.
Oh, and like the Avs were like a hair better. And so what you mean to tell me is that your best shot in the playoffs was to break even,
right?
In terms of chances. So I mean, from Colorado's standpoint, you really don't. There's almost nothing to take from that series where you say, oh, we've got to do this better, we've got to do that better. Their power play rolled along at just under 50%. Their penalty kill statistically could have been better, but you remember that, they score a power play goal in game 1 that matters not at all.
Yeah. And
then don't score on a 5-on-3 in game 2 at the start of the third period.
A full, minute 58 second 5-on-3?
I think it was 152. Right in that range. Yeah.
Might as well have been a full 2 minute.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. And then they get two in game 3 that you just survive because you score 4 of your own. Like your biggest bugaboo during the regular season was your penalty kill. And your penalty kill was fine. Like game 3, they give up 2 goals. And that's really the only game where you're like, hey, this is a problem. But they had 2 power plays in game 4, and both of their power plays came when the game was still in question. And they got 0 shots. 0 on 2 power plays. And keep in mind, Nashville's power play they went into the first round this year, Nashville and Colorado as the 6th and 7th best power plays. So it's not like this was like the 23rd placed unit or whatever that just couldn't get it going. Right. This was a really good regular season Nashville Predator power play that was like the Avs PK swallowed it up, like took care of business.
Well, and you know, you talk about that in game 4, they had the 2 power plays where they didn't get shots on either. And this wasn't like the Avs were collapsing back, you know, eating pucks, blocking shots, and, you know, just trying to keep things at the perimeter. It was a lot of disrupting zone entries, disrupting passes, winning races to loose pucks, winning board battles, getting pucks high and off the glass. Those 2 penalty kills in particular that you're talking about there, I thought were specifically impressive from the Avs. The one area, you know, to be fair, that based on kind of the deep dive that you did, and this has been an issue for them all season. So this is something that I would personally like to see them put a little bit of focus on here over the next few days when you've got some time off. They did still struggle in front of their own net. Struggle is kind of a loosely used term because I don't know if you looked at anything that the Avs did in round 1 and say it was a struggle. Yeah. But if there's an area, if you're looking for them to get better, in my opinion, that's been it all season, and that kind of held true again in round 1.
Well, and you do keep in mind that high danger chances, the Avs got the run of high danger chances in the series, so they were okay there. But those are also the chances that teams are selling out to create. Like, those are the ones that they want the most. Mm-hmm. So I think you're always going to give some of those up. What I liked about Colorado in the series is I never felt like there was a single game where it was a really big problem. Over the course of the series, when you go back and you look at the numbers, they kind of accumulated, not in such a way that you're like, oh my God, but like enough where you're like, that was the only really statistical area the Avalanche did not dominate.
Yeah.
And some of that is because of the way that the Avs play offense. Some of that is because in game 1, they did whatever the hell they wanted to. So they basically had a game where they did not create very much of those because they didn't have to.
Right.
But no, it was an area where you can look at it and say defensively, and like the way that the Avs are built defensively, they're not really big. They're not really physical. They're not really mean. They're effective in all areas of the ice. You look at their suppression. You look at the way that they move pucks. You know, every defenseman scored a point in that series. Yeah. So you look at the fact that they all contributed a little bit of offense. They all contributed defensively. They all had their moments, good and bad. Like except I would say Makar may not have had too many bad moments.
Yeah.
Taves too. I mean, Taves very, very, very few mistakes in the series. But really, like they defensively, they were so like we were excited to see what that unit could do at full strength. And its early returns were, well, they took one of the best top lines in the NHL and made it irrelevant. Broke it in half so badly that by game 4, they weren't even playing together anymore.
Right.
I mean, really, they broke that lineup after the second game.
Yeah.
And it never got back together. And then they were just rotating guys in and out, trying to find solutions, where Yakov Trenin ended up as one of their most productive players. Like, well,
yeah, and those he loved I was thinking of Rudo every time Yakov Trenin would score. I was like, man, this guy's been getting his ass kicked all over the series for however many games, and this dude's jumping into the glass, dropping to one knee. It's like Ruda must be loving celebrating these goals after getting your ass kicked.
Yeah, every time Yakov Trenin did anything, Cole Hamilton texted me because back in BSN's infancy, Yakov Trenin's draft year, Cole loved Yakov Trenin.
Really?
I think this guy's gonna be good, man. I think he's gonna be a player, and he was right. Like,
yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it was a good pull, and he was a mid-round pick, and Trenin's been a good player. But like, if he's your most productive player in an offensive series, offensively in a series, you probably didn't win that series.
Yeah, you're probably in trouble.
Yeah, you're at home.
We'll kind of wrap the Avs up here, but I do just want to touch a little bit on what they did on the other side of the ice, because I think you're right. Defensively, they really kind of locked this series down. They made Philip Forsberg as close to irrelevant as you can for a 40-goal scorer. But the eye test said, wow, it seems like every time Nashville carries the puck into the zone, it's at most a one-and-done chance going the other way. And every time the Avs carry the puck into the zone, seems like they get 3, 4, 5 good looks at the net before the puck is going back the other way. And then you go and take a look at the analytical data from this series, and it pretty much backs up that same thought process. Look, it's hard to overstate. The Avs just kind of dominated from start to finish, all 200 feet of the ice. What stood out to you the most about their offensive play in the first round?
I think it was just that all of the lineup got involved. I put in there at the end of my piece that 16 Avs had a point.
Yeah.
12 Avs had multiple points in the series. There were only 3 guys that played in the only 3 skaters who got into games that didn't score a point for Colorado, and Darren Helm, Logan O'Connor, and Nicholas Aube-Kubel.
And O'Connor actually had an assist that was then taken away.
Yeah.
So, at bare minimum on that play, at least he was involved enough that it looked like maybe he had a part in that goal. But
well, yeah, that's not to say that those guys didn't contribute, because look at it, and like Darren Helm and Logan O'Connor, Colorado's fourth line was very good in the series.
I thought they were fantastic.
They were very good in the series, and they really only had a couple of mistakes. The Nico Sturm mistake on the clearing of the wall on the first goal for Nashville in Game 3 was really their big whoopsie as a line. But they also were the one that created the game-winning goal in overtime in Game 2. So Andrew Cogliano scored a shorthanded goal in Game 1.
Right. Yeah, no, Darren Helm was one guy for me that I think was kind of like one of my biggest surprises for this round. I think those were his 4 best games he's played all season.
Yeah, it took all year for you to be like, why did the Avs sign this guy? But as soon as it started, they were really good. Like that fourth line, it did not have a good game 4, as was mentioned in the comments. It got beat up a little bit, but the rest of the series, it was quality.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this lineup so scary, is that you do have, Andre Burakovsky, a super quiet series. I think he'd been fine. And then he has a 3-point game 4.
Right.
Arturi Lehkonen gives you 2 goals in 2 different games. You get Val Nichushkin giving you 2 goals in the series. And then you get production out of all of your big guns. Mikko Rantanen doesn't score a goal, but gives you 5 assists.
Right. Play above a point per game. Yep.
Yeah, and Mikko Rantanen, I think you have a little bit of concern because he didn't score a goal, and those 5 assists, he didn't score any points in games 2 or 4. And you're used to the top line being a little more productive than that.
Right.
I will be curious to see if the 3-headed monster stays together. I think Alex Newhook, since Chad is talking about this, I think Alex Newhook is. I understood where they were coming from against Nashville. I think if they play against St. Louis, I think you'll see Newhook replace Aube-Kubel. because it'll be a little bit more of a run and gun type of series, and you want that little extra skill there.
Yeah.
Whereas with Nashville, Abe-Kubel brought that physical element that kind of matched up what they wanted to do.
And he played well. Like that was the one thing that, going through Twitter over the last, 8 days, I saw so many people just dogging the coaching staff for sitting Alex Newhook. And look, I'm a big fan of Alex Newhook's game. I think he's got a ton of skill.
I feel like you and I would not have done it, but you can see where they're coming from.
I can see where they're coming from. And then by the time you got to game 3, you're sitting there and it's like, look, at this point, I get it. This lineup is playing really well. You're getting the types of contributions from those guys that he would kind of be in the mix with that you want. And the other thing that I do think is important to keep in mind, and I loved how Jared Bednar put this, it is not just purely who are the 12 best skaters.
Yeah.
It's who are the 3 right skaters for the composition of this line? Who are the 3 right skaters for this line? Yes, if you're just picking sticks at your local rink, you're taking Alex Newhooks before JT Comfort, before Abe-Kubel, before Helm, before O'Connor. Sure, absolutely. But for the role that they were looking for Alex Newhook to fill, they felt that Abe-Kubel just gave them a little bit more of what they needed. I get it, why people wanted him, but it also made a ton of sense once you kind of got into the series and see how the lineup was rolling. AJ, before we kind of wrap up the conversation on the Avs series, anything else from you? Round 1, Avs 4-0 over Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a whole section comparing Cale Makar and Roman Josi just because of the Norris Trophy and the great debate. And I called it the fall of the Roman Empire because I thought
that was great.
But it really did feel like the passing of a torch from one generation of great defensemen who led his team on deep runs. Like, let's remember, Roman Josi was a part of some pretty good Preds teams for a few years there. And it just sort of felt like a symbolic passing of the torch of like, all right, Cale Makar just absolutely shredded Nashville. And he set an NHL record in scoring 10 points in 4 games, which no defenseman had ever done in the playoffs before. So pretty good start. Probably sets unrealistic expectations for round 2, because if he goes in and has like 1 point in 2 games, we're all going to be like, what's wrong with Cale Makar? So, yeah, anyway, that,
so right.
Yeah, and that I thought was just sort of an interesting comparison that Roman Josi just got the shit kicked out of him in that series. Like, Roman Josi didn't have as much, obviously doesn't have anywhere near the amount of help, but individually, analytically, you want to go and look at it. I even put their head-to-head numbers, in which Makar bested Josi head-to-head in every single game. It was close in most of the games. It was closer than you would have thought, except for game 2, where it was just a trouncing. But
well, dude, it's funny because you put it in that in your piece, and I said it to 2 or 3 people this weekend. Look, it's a regular season award. I get it. But if you are someone that had Josi number 1 for Norris and Cale number 2, like, you watch that head-to-head matchup and we're just like, oops.
I think you put it well. A regular season award, but those people are not looking forward to the day the ballots get released.
I was going to say, and you pointed that out in your piece, like, it's a regular season award for sure, but there are a bunch of people like, damn, not looking forward to defending this.
Yeah.
And I thought the game-winning goal in game 4 was just kind of the ultimate bow on that. Cale Makar snaps that pass cross crease, and before Josi even processes that puck's coming in his vicinity, or Val Nichushkin, his man, had slid out and was now wide open for a one-timer. The puck was in and out of the back of the net.
Well, and
wild feed.
What creates that is the goal that he scores in game 1, where he makes the exact same move where he shakes a guy at the blue line and then cuts down, and a little different because the defender hadn't lost his stick this time, but the defense all collapsed on him to prevent him from scoring the goal that he scored in game 1. And when they did that, when that defense moves, everybody moves that way to cover him, it creates the passing lane to Val Nichushkin that he just hits. He makes a picture perfect pass. Puck is flat. It's on the ice. It's in there.
Huge credit to Val too, not only for the play to get open, but that is a hot pass to handle. And I mean, he hammered it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to finish that. You've got to, there's no cleaner of a look that you're going to get in a game. He's got to be able to finish that one. And he did. And so you're just like, perf, let's get out of here. Fuck Nashville.
Well, let's get out of this segment. DNVR Avalanche Podcast brought to you guys by our good friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Also brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery. The hometown craft beer of your Colorado Avalanche is celebrating the historic winning season with the people who have supported this community through such a challenging year by gifting Avs tickets to a pair of community stars to each home game during the playoffs, even the Stanley Cup Finals. Breckenridge Brewery is inviting you to nominate a stellar community member and Avs fan who should get the chance to celebrate at a playoff game this season. Each home game, Breckenridge Brewery will hook up a fan and a friend with tickets, gear to match, and of course, the drink of the season, the Avalanche Ale. Breckenridge Brewery will also donate a portion of all proceeds of sales of the Avalanche Ale through the playoffs to the community fund Boulder County to benefit fire marshal victims. Visit breckbrew.com to nominate a community star and send them to an Avs playoff game. Again, breckbrew.com. Nominate a local community star, big Avs fan, get them to an Avs playoff game this postseason. Also brought to you guys by Evoca TV. Look, the rest of the playoffs, the rest of the way are nationally televised, but start gearing up already for Evoca TV for next season with Evoca TV. Obviously, if you haven't been able to watch the Nuggets, Avs, Rapids, now you can get all of the Colorado teams you love with Evoca. It's a totally new way to approach TV programming. It's less expensive, it's easy to watch, and it offers a superior picture. I used to work in telecom in this space. It is that industry's dirty little secret that stuff that you get without the traditional coax cable hookup is like 3 times cleaner picture. So Evoca is not lying. Get a TV stream box from Evoca, and you get the best picture, and you get networks like Altitude Sports, AT&T Sportsnet, plus tons of other national channels. They are growing and constantly adding to their lineup, but most importantly, above all, they have Altitude Sports. Head on over to evoca.tv/DNVR. Use the promo code DNVR. You'll get $10 off your first 3 months. So that's only $15 per month for the first 3 months, plus a receiver. No contracts, no hidden fees. That is Evoca, evoca.tv/DNVR. Jesse Montano, AJ Haefele. This is the DNVR Avalanche Podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Taking a look at where we sit currently in the first round. The Avs made quick work of the Preds. I think, honestly, handling them a little bit better than even I expected. I expected Nashville to be able to grind out a win or two, but it was funny, man. By the end of game 4, not even by the end of game 4, you could tell that Nashville had completely taken the physicality element of their game out of it because they were like, we just can't keep marching to the box. We're getting our heads kicked in, putting them on the power play. So it was funny to see that type of counter from the Avs. It wasn't even like they had to play the physical way. They just Nashville tried to.
You go and
they did, but
like they're like 4th in hits or something. Like they ended up they matched that physicality with no issue. It was fine.
But they didn't need to like make that what their game was about.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that it was just totally irrelevant. Like that was like the one thing that Nashville was like, we're gonna hang our hat on that. And Colorado was like, we don't even like hats. And
well, you and I were laughing at that one like Twitter or like Nashville Twitter thread where it's like, yeah, obviously it's easy to laugh at some of these takes now that the series is over.
Yeah, and like you understand where an 8th seed is like trying to talk themselves into like, hey, we could totally hang.
But it was just funny because the basis for every argument was, well, we're physical.
Yeah. Well,
Nashville plays physical. Yeah.
Colorado's just a bunch of softies.
Right.
Okay.
That so far is the only series that's done. Pittsburgh has a chance to wrap theirs up tonight at home.
Surprised at how that's gone. Just how that series has played out, not necessarily that it's where it is.
Well, honestly, man, I've been surprised with the way that every series is.
Fair enough. It's been like a lot of blowouts, and then a couple of close games. You're just like, why am I watching the Dallas Calgary series?
Right. Well, and I think, we talked about it in our series previews. I don't think either you or I was very high. Let's start out east and let's go and just jump right into this Pittsburgh New York series. Pittsburgh's up 3-1. Kind of, I think it's been a little bit more, I don't know if dominant is the right word from Pittsburgh, but they have just had much more of a stranglehold on this series than I thought. I don't think either you or I were very high on the Rangers coming in.
I said they were the worst team of the playoff teams and then picked to win the series because of Igor Shesterkin, who has been terrible. After game 1, he has not been good.
Right.
And you always do wonder, like, when is the goaltender going to hit the wall, right? Like, when does his play dip just enough? And it happening in the middle of the series. There you go. And you really do look at them and you're like, what's really the difference between Nashville and the Rangers? You got a couple of great players at the top of the roster, one really good defenseman, and then it's just a whole bunch of blah except Shesterkin.
Right. I would say like
right now, you could make the argument that Connor Ingram was better against Colorado than Shesterkin has been in that series outside of the 3 overtime game.
Right. I would maybe make the argument that New York's high end is a little bit higher, but you're 100% right. 17 goals against for Igor Shesterkin in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, just it does have a little bit of the feel of 2014 round 1 for the Avs, where Semyon Varlamov just ran out of gas, and you could just see it in his body language. He was slow to get up. He just looked tired. And Shesterkin's a young guy early in his career, but I mean, the dude played an unbelievable amount of games this year, stood on his head for most of them. Again, kind of like that 13-14 Avs, they were outshot in a lot of games and he had to win them. And it just looks like his tank might be on E, and that's exactly what we've said about the Rangers all year. Once this guy runs out of steam, this team is fucked.
Once he can no longer paper over all the problems that they have, it will be done for the Rangers. And they on the other side of it, though, like Sidney Crosby, like reminding everybody, do you guys remember that I'm Sidney fucking Crosby? Like, I'm the man.
He every now and then will do something like, hey, I'm still in the conversation for best player in the world. Don't forget.
Yeah. Where it's like it's almost like we got like Crosby fatigue and we were so excited to move on to the next generation. And then Crosby will have a series like this where he's just like, move on from me? You dare? You want to move on from this?
I thought McKinnon's Sportsnet interview was great. He goes, yeah, when Sid retires, he'll still be better than me. and it's like, you get he's being tongue in cheek, but like, I think you make a great point, man. I think with so many great players in the league now, we just spent how much time talking about Cale Makar. Yeah. It is easy to forget that, Sidney Crosby is still, among the elite of the elite.
Yeah, you look at what he's won in his career and you're just like, so everything.
Right,
and then He is 6th all time in playoff scoring. And his next point will tie him with Jaromir Jagr.
Crazy, dude.
Like, he won't catch Messier and Gretzky, but you do wonder. He's 33 points behind Jari Kurri for 3rd all time. You wonder if there's enough in the tank to get there.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, it's the same thing at the beginning of the series. I'm not picking against Sidney Crosby, and yeah, great point here in the comments. Evgeny Malkin too has had a good series, and this is where at this point in the series, down 3-1. Let's see. Tonight's game should be back in New York, right?
Yeah.
Should be. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the home crowd gives the Rangers a little bit of a boost, but this is where you've got to be nervous if you're the Rangers. The Penguins have been in this situation a ton of times where you've got to get the 4th win to move on. Guys like Crosby, guys like Malkin, guys like Letang, they're going to know how to get the team going to try to close this one out. And as they're waiting for Tristan Jarry, I'm sure they'd love to have this series wrapped up, get a couple days, hopefully be able to start next series with Jarry. Casey DeSmith has been fine. Louis Domingue was okay for a game.
That's the thing. It's like DeSmith is done, right? And they're Louis Domingue is their ride or die until Jarry's ready.
Yeah.
And so, okay, if he's going to be back by game 6, like that's great. Like that's the other thing with the Rangers. You guys you're not going to win a series when you had Igor Shesterkin against Louis Domingue.
Right. Yeah, you don't deserve to win that series. You don't deserve to come back. So it's going to be interesting. I'll definitely have this one on the big screen tonight. Also because what we were talking about earlier in our call, hopefully some of these series start wrapping up so we can get some of our production done.
It's so funny because we were like, we want the Avs to finish so we can have a few days off. And now we're like, we want all the other series to finish so we can go back to work. We all got 2 days off and we're so bored.
So it's been an interesting one. That one has definitely gone a little bit different. I was surprised that was the only other series besides the Avs that wasn't 2-2 after 4 games. Let's shoot to the series.
The only thing that surprised me was how it happened with it. Shesterkin completely going to pieces.
Falling apart.
Yeah.
Let's go to the series that we all said. Actually, we'll save that one. The other one that I think we all kind of looked at as like, blech, Carolina-Boston. Again, weird how we've gotten to where we're at.
Yeah, with the goaltender in Carolina, where, dude, Antti Ranta gets run over, and then you get the Coochie experience, and then Ranta's back, and it's been that series is like classic Boston, like hard to put away, experienced team, comfortable in bad situations, total heel turns. Left like constant heel turns from Brad Marchand, but then Carolina, you watched that game last night, and I really just did not. I didn't think either team looked all that good to me.
No, and part of the reason why I've really had that one as I've watched almost every game, or at least parts of every game, but it's really been a secondary series for me, is because exactly what you just said. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I've watched this Boston series 15 times. Yeah. I've seen this happen already. Yeah. I don't need to rewatch this. This has gone just the exact way I've seen every other Boston Bruins series go for the last 7 years.
And with Carolina, Carolina, I'm both super impressed every time I watch them because they're so good at so many things. Mm-hmm. And I'm also underwhelmed because I'm just like, where's that next gear?
Right.
Where's that
how do they take the step?
Where's that FU gear where they just when they want it? And maybe this is a thing that I'm looking for because I see it in the Avs as often as I do.
Right.
Where when they play at their absolute best, when they max out, the Avs are awesome. Like, you watch them and you're like, this is a freaking all-star team. This is so impressive when they max out and they go crazy, right? But with Carolina, when they max out, I'm still just like, they're very, very good.
Yeah.
And I guess
they don't look unbeatable.
They don't, and what it's their depth that makes them, I think, who they are. And it's Colorado's high end that makes Colorado who they are. Mm-hmm. And each team has been trying to min-max its way towards the other being a strength as well.
Right.
As the Avs have desperately been trying to get deeper, and Carolina's just like, please, Andrei Svechnikov, please take that next step to greatness.
Well, it's like Carolina, and there's obviously exceptions to this, but like Carolina has an entire roster of like second line guys.
Who you look at?
Wow, those are really all good. Second line guys. Yeah,
that guy's really good. Yep, that guy. Oh, hey, that guy. Wow, man, that guy's on their third line. That guy's really good.
But as it sits right now, the Avs have like 5 elite first line players. Then they maybe have the 2 best defensemen in the NHL this year, or at least 2 of the top 5. And their depth kind of falls into a similar mold that Carolina's does, where it's like once you get past a certain point, yeah, a lot of these guys probably play up a unit. Both are great. Both are really tough to play against, but I think it's series like this where Carolina struggles to separate and actually close out, because they don't have, even like a Pasternak.
Yeah, I think they don't have, and this is more of a thing in the NBA than any of the other sports, but I think it does show up here. They don't have that alpha personality. They don't have that like straight up stone cold killer that you're like, this guy is going to go out and just end this series for them. They do it, like they kill by committee, right? Like they're pack hunters, and it's phenomenal formula for the regular season. But in the playoffs, when teams, it's all about taking things away. Yeah. It's you need Sebastian Aho to stop being pretty good and to just fucking kill a team, to just erase the perfection line. Like, you just need him to win that battle. You're looking at you. It's like, okay, if it's not going to be Aho, is it Svechnikov? Is it Trocheck? Is it Teravainen? Is it Niederreiter? Like, they've got so many guys that are like, that guy's good. That guy's really good. But when you're in overtime, are you really is it really going to be like, all right, Jordan Martinook is going to get us out of this one again? Right. Like, you want to shorten your bench a little, and you want to put out your star guys and have them go and do it for you. Because we're talking about, we've seen this from Boston. Who gets it done for Boston all the time?
Top guys.
It's always Bergeron, top guys. It's Marchand, it's Pasternak. If it's not one of those guys, it's been a weird day in Boston.
We talked about it earlier. The Avs got contributions, from 16 skaters, but who is it that scores the game-winning goal in Game 4? Who is it that scores the overtime goal, in Game 2? Who is it that gets things going in Game 3? It was the big guns at every turn, and then the depth filled in around the fringes.
Yeah, I mean, McKinnon has a 3-point game. Makar has multiple 3-point games. Gabe Landeskog has a 4-point game when the other guys weren't having 3-point games.
Right.
Like, their star players just played hot potato with Nashville season. And that's where you're just like, with Colorado, you can see it. Like, those are the guys. Those are the guys that you say, all right, those guys have to get it done for us. And with Carolina, with Boston, you've got those guys, but do you have enough help on your lineup? They're defensively, they're just not quite as good as they've been in recent years. And in goal, like, Ullmark and Swayman got them through a regular season. They were solid. They're not great. And I think that you're just like, all right, well, they just don't have that star guy in net to really help them separate. And that's why I think, I picked Carolina in the series, but I don't think Boston gets out of the second round, even if they do move on.
Right.
So that's been a fascinating series just because of that.
Let's move on here. Quickly, we'll speed up these last handful here. Florida, Washington. This has been my biggest surprise of the first round so far. Easily series tied at 2 games apiece as it heads back to South Florida tonight for Game 5.
About 2 inches away from it being 3-1 Washington on that empty net.
Yep. And look, Washington's offense has showed up, and Sergei Bobrovsky has struggled. Is this series surprised you as much as it has me?
Yes and no. Yes, because I didn't put too much consideration into the Caps walking into this. And I've always kind of been iffy on playoff experience. But that's where I think this series is why it's 2-2. Because on paper, this isn't all that close. Defensively, offensively, in net, Florida's just better. But there are only 3 games tonight because Colorado finished their series, LOL. But with Florida, I just think that playoff experience, they got punched in the mouth and they look shell-shocked at times. And they've been drifting through games, and they're trying to figure out, okay, can we consistently get away with the shit we got away with in the regular season, where we didn't play a very good 2 periods and we were down 3-1. But in the third period, we would just max it out and we would go tie the game and then go win in an overtime or whatever. And they're having a hard time with that. We're an inch away from this being 3-1.
Yeah,
because
with a chance to close it out. Yeah,
right. And because they missed that because of a missed empty net. And had they hit that empty net, it's 3-1, and you're looking at Florida like, whoops.
Can you recover? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, they score that 1 goal. They get the goal. But that's where it's been, Washington has played well, but they've been opportunistic, and their goalies, I think, have survived. They've been good.
Yeah.
But I just Florida, I did a bracket challenge with everybody else. I didn't have Florida going beyond the second round because I believe them in this series, but I don't believe in them for the reasons that we're seeing. I don't believe in them long term because they just play in such a way that they're unbelievably talented and on their A game. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
But I worry still about them defensively a little bit. I think they're a little too many of their defensemen are one-dimensional, and I just don't really. They've surprised me with how they've taken punches in the postseason. They look a little shell-shocked. So,
yeah. Washington's goaltending, like you said, has held up better than I thought it would. That's another one I will make sure I am tuning into tonight. Last one from the East, Toronto, Tampa Bay. Again, I don't think anyone is surprised this series is sitting at 3-2, but I was surprised that it took till Game 5 for us to get a competitive game.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this series? Have you kind of felt the same way that I just explained?
Maple Leafs trying to make me look like a genius because I picked them in 6 and I was the only one. So on our panel.
Yeah.
Not the only in the world, just the only one.
I'm the only one. Yeah.
The only believer in them. And I said last night after they got down 2-0, I said this is what they have to do to slay their demon. They have to figure out how to come back in a game, instead of just be like, well, we got down and now we've lost.
Right. Which is honestly kind of what it looked like happened to each team in the first 5 games. I honestly don't even know how much I have to say about this series just because every game has been so wildly unpredictable. There haven't really been any consistent trends.
Yeah. It's like guys trade bad, like the goalies have traded bad games.
Seriously.
And it's kind of like, okay, well.
Dude, I mean, Jack Campbell looks like
he should have been in the Vezina conversation all along one night, and then has 6 dropped on him the next.
Yeah, it's been hard to watch at times, and the series has been disappointing because of that, because they've traded bad games. And you go in and you're like, oh my God, those are 2 really good hockey teams. I'm so excited to see what happens.
Right.
No, I still believe in Toronto, and I've been a vocal detractor of Tampa Bay's this year. So we'll see, though. They've got that NHL record, 17 wins in a row coming off of a loss.
Yeah. I'd like to see that one get to 7 games either way, just for fun,
like for selfish reasons. Like games, always you're never gonna find me saying a game 7 is bad, even if it's Dallas Calgary.
Well, and just because that series it's been disappointing. I thought that was going to be this like heavyweight, great game after great game, and it's honestly become a game on most nights up until last night that you can kind of lose interest in halfway through.
Yeah, I've made a habit of being like, oh, that game's okay. Well, what's going on in the NBA tonight?
Yeah. Well, speaking of what's going on in the NBA, you can head on over to our great partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook, which is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets if they win. Looking to turn a small bet into a big game payday during the NBA playoffs with DraftKings same game parlays, you can do just that. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets like which team will win, total number of threes made, total number of rebounds, and more. And boom, you have a shot at a bigger payout. Right now, all customers can place a same game parlay with 3 or more legs and get a free bet back up to $25 if one leg doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR. Bet just $5 on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's promo code DNVR only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Also want to make sure that we remind you guys about our great partners over at Ripple. Ripple, a fast-acting, dissolvable, clinically proven to hit 2 times faster than the leading gummy. Ripple starts absorbing within 10 minutes, so you can depend on a consistent experience every single time. With Ripple dissolvables, you can make anything an edible, flavorless, dissolvable powder. Seriously, I have used this product before from Lightshade. It's
People
fantastic.
Really like it.
It's fantastic. It's a teeny little bit of powder. Seriously, no taste, nothing. You can drop it in just like a little glass of water, drop it in a beer, sprinkle it on your fries like it's salt. It's completely flavorless, dissolvable. It is awesome. Ripple Quick Sticks are the most convenient way to get the fastest THC. Just pour it on your tongue. Ripple products come in a variety of doses for whatever experience you're looking for. There's no sketchy science here. Ripple speed and absorption were studied by Colorado State University in a randomized placebo-controlled trial with real people, and the results were published in a peer-reviewed journal. Like I said a minute ago, you can find Ripple at a Lightshade dispensary with 11 convenient locations in the Denver metro area. With the Barnum location now open, 1 block off 6th Avenue and Federal. Biggest Lightshade store, specialty products not offered at locations. They are phenomenal. Podcast listeners, get 25% off non-sale items with code DNVR. Shop online at lightshade.com or visit a Lightshade location near you. And again, you don't even have to place the order online to get that discount. Go in there, let them know, hey, I'm a DNVR listener. They get the promo code for you. Get all of that knocked out right there at the counter. Jesse Montano, AJ Haefele, we're going to go through these Western series kind of quick because this is already a long one. Appreciate you guys sticking with us.
I just don't have nearly as much to say about them, to be honest with you. They haven't been very interesting.
No. Calgary, Dallas, man.
It's still going on. Next.
Here's the one question I'll ask you, and then we can move on. Does this say more about Dallas or Calgary?
Dallas.
Interesting. So you think Dallas has shown a little bit better than we thought, not the Flames struggling?
Yeah, I think it's both teams want to play heavy hockey and rely on their stars to get them just enough to cross the finish line.
Yeah.
Dallas has just shown that I think this ended up being a nightmare matchup for Calgary, and I feel dumb for not having
seeing it coming. Yeah.
For at least not having seen it be more competitive, because I knew Jake Ottinger was good. I've always been a Jake Ottinger guy. But I feel dumb for just being, because watching Dallas at the end of the year, they were so horrible.
And that to me is what it was.
Like get into my brain. And
they were bad.
They were brutal to watch. Brutal to watch.
Yep.
And I just sorry. The Stars, I think that they do such a good job of we are only playing our way.
Yeah.
And then they just hope for the best. That's literally their game plan, is lock it all down, try to make us a 30 shot game total, 15 each, and hope that one of our, Joe Pavelski, does something sick.
Right.
That's it, man. That's their game plan. So, but you also have with Calgary, you have, again, once for the second time now in just a couple of years, you have this exact group, this exact core has put expectations on them again, and that they're not living up to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a fascinating, Dallas is just going to do what they're going to do and be who they are. And they're saying, okay, if you can beat us doing this, then that's fine. I would love for them to get to the conference final and have them be the final boss for Colorado. I would love that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great series. But with Calgary, are they ever going to figure this out? How much money is Johnny Gaudreau costing himself? It's weird to say after a 115-point season in the regular season, but how much money is he costing himself?
Well, I mean, look, he was a 99-point getter the year that they finished first in the West and got bumped by the Avs, and he had 0 points in the first round. 115 points this year, and hasn't been good in the first round. That series is tied 2-2. There is still time for them to pull it out. On the other side of the Pacific, AJ, I told you guys on our our playoff preview show, I said if Edmonton loses this series, I'm officially out on the Oilers forever. This core, forever. This core is done. I will never believe in them again. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are done. They're great regular season performers, but don't care. There is still time for them to come back and rectify this. But they now trail the LA Kings 3-2 with the series shifting back to LA. And they are now down their number one defenseman, who's whatever. Mike Smith has been atrocious. Connor McDavid up until last night had been okay.
Well, then everybody jerked off McDavid and Draisaitl because they had such an awesome third period and they erased the 2-goal deficit. Wow, they were so dominant in the third period, and it's okay.
Oh, and then
there were 3 other periods.
And Connor McDavid got burned. So that game had the feel to me of when Edmonton tied it, I said the Oilers win this in regulation or LA wins it in overtime. And those first 2 shifts out there, you could tell. I was like, LA is going to win this right here. They looked like they had the mindset of, look, boys, we have a quarter of a tank left tonight. Empty it all in the first 10 minutes and just try to get something by their goaltender, and let's get out of here with a win. Connor McDavid gets caught on a long shift, gets burned by Adrian Kempe. Duncan Keith, the best benefit of the doubt I can give him is that he was assuming that McDavid was going to make that pinch on the wall and he was going to pick the puck off in the middle and be the hero going the other way. Instead, they both get burned. Kempe with a great move around Mike Smith, but beats, if you count Mike Smith's stick, 3 different Oilers to the front of the net. See you later. LA's up 3-2. And I mean, this, I don't know what else to say about.
The one thing is, and we will forever just disagree here. I think just how it's working out. I think Mike Smith's been like solid in the series. You know, the shots against, you know, he's made more than 40 saves in each of the last 3 games.
Darnell Nurse was suspended 1 game for the headbutt, just so you know.
Yeah. So he's made more than 40 saves in each of the last 3 games. The 1 game he got the shutout, he stopped 30. And so, like, his workload right now is crazy. Because they're just so bad defensively. But I say this, and then you go and you watch some of the goals that get given up, and you're like,
and that's my thing.
Like, he has a 930 save percentage in this postseason. And so when you look at that, you're like, what more do you want Mike Smith to be doing here?
Right.
But some of the, like last night, like
that third goal, dude, is just.
That's a great goal by Adrian Kempe in overtime to beat him. Like, I'm not mad at Mike Smith for that.
No.
What the hell happens in front of him? But you do look at the individual goals and you're like, some of these are bad, dude. Right. Like, you're just giving away goals here to a team that, like, the Kings are not prolific offensively. They are not a team that should be scoring 4 a night.
Well, and that has always been my thing with Mike Smith. And you are right. Like, obviously, he is just the guy that I have that, like, I just have that mental block with. So I'm always going to portray it as worse than it actually is. But for me, it's the goals that he gives up. You know, I feel like he finds, for someone as big as he is, how often he finds himself out of position.
Well, and the way that he stops pucks, you're just like, this dude's, there's no style here. He just flails about.
Right. It's just like high danger on every save. Get your heart rate going as high as you can on every stop.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think it was LA's 3rd goal last night, Kempe's first of the night. I mean, just he gets a clean look at a wrist shot that just beats him 5-hole.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't take any funny bounces. It's not a change up, nothing. It just beats him to the ice. And it's that stuff where it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah, well,
come on.
Just given the conversation around this series, you would not know that Mike Smith has a 930 save percentage and that Jonathan Quick has an 887. You just wouldn't know that because people are talking in the 5 games of this series. Jonathan Quick, he put up a 923 in game 1, and then an 833, a 765. Then he had a 31 save shutout. And last night, he gave up 4 goals on 28 shots for an 857. And you would never know it. You would never know it because people are like, it's 2014 Jonathan Quick. The Kings are so good. Oh my God, he's back. Oh my God, he's back. And you're like, he has an 887, and the only reason that this is relevant is because it's the Oilers.
Right. And the 2 games where he was good, he was very good. I cannot wait to see.
Like, you see him make some, like, insane, like, you're like, what is happening on some of these saves? And you watch the goals last night, and you're like, it's not like he stood a chance on a couple of those. Like, come on, man. Like, the power play opens up, and Connor McDavid, like, the one that it killed me was when, like, 4 seconds into the power play, Connor McDavid, like, draws him out of the net and takes the puck around behind. And Jonathan Quick is, like, 5 feet outside of his net on his stomach without his stick. And you're just like, this should be a pretty easy goal. And it was. Like, the rest of them, you're looking at it, and you're just like, oh, my God, dude. They hang him out to dry. On a couple of occasions, but Edmonton's defense is just worse somehow.
Yeah.
It's just worse, man. I don't believe in either one of these teams, no matter how this series ends. I feel like whoever comes out of Calgary, Dallas is just going to be like, well, we're just going to lock this down, knock all this shit off, and
offensively, yeah.
Where you do a good enough job of beating yourself that we'll just let you.
Yeah, we'll just let you. All right, we got one more series to get to, and then we do have a super chat that we'll finish up with.
Best series of the first round.
Minnesota St. Louis. This has been the most entertaining series of the first round, and the Avs will get the winner of this series. It looked like Minnesota maybe had all the momentum going last night, and we're going to seize a 3-2 series lead on home ice. But a couple of quick goals from Vlad Tarasenko, and this one was all done.
A third period hat trick.
Yeah, dude, no kidding. Started with Ville Husso. Jordan Binnington has played the last 3 games. St. Louis now with a 3-2 series lead and a chance to close it out at home tomorrow. Kirill Kaprizov, 7 goals. He is almost half of Minnesota's goals in the first round. Just 15 goals total for the Wild, 7 of them coming off the stick of Kirill Kaprizov. Marc-Andre Fleury has started every game so far for the Wild.
The one surprise for me.
Yeah, I agree.
We talked during the preview. We all said, all right, how many goalies are we going to see in the series? We all agreed it was going to be all 4.
Yeah.
We're still waiting. Come on. You still have time, Big Dean. Play Cam Talbot, an elimination game.
Do you think there's any chance they change it up now?
No.
I don't either. I give them credit for rolling with it. I do give them credit because typically you see the tandem stuff go sideways when you start switching back and forth too much.
They're losing to a team that tandemed it up. It's been a weird series, man.
It's been a weird series. Just kind of quickly your thoughts on this one as a whole, AJ. I mean, you were rubbing your hands together. I think this has been a great series.
Yeah, I think it was the best series coming in next to Tampa Bay and Toronto. And it has been the end results have been blowouts, not close on the scoreboards. Like the games, the actual inside the games have actually been pretty good at times.
There's been a lot of swings within a game. Last night being a good example.
And I don't know. I don't like the Minnesota matchup against Colorado as much as I do the St. Louis one. Like I really like the Blues for Colorado. And it's really weird to me that Minnesota just can't seem to break this weird hold that the Blues have on them.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's just gonna come down to which goaltender plays the best at the end of the series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, again, like you said, I'm with you. You know, you made this point earlier. I really try hard not to put too much weight into, experience. Yeah. I think there's really good teams that do really good things all the time, but you do again just kind of sit back and go, as much of a fluke as that St. Louis Stanley Cup kind of run was, not necessarily a fluke for them, but just the way the playoffs shook out that year, it's a one-off year. Regardless, they still went through that. They still had to close out 4 series.
Dude, you win a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final.
Right.
Like it doesn't get any more like big cojones moment than that.
Right. And you do just wonder with Minnesota knowing how much uncertainty is ahead of them. Marc-Andre Fleury, Kevin Fiala, obviously $16 million in dead cap in 2 years. You do wonder if maybe they start gripping the sticks a little tighter.
Yeah, you do want. They've got to be feeling it because this could be like, is this their shot during Kirill Kaprizov's time in Minnesota? Just because of their cap issues will always make it so that they have to get career years every single year out of guys like Ryan Hartman. Right. Otherwise they're not going to go anywhere. So they're in kind of a strange spot organizationally for sure, we are like, they've got to make this happen now, which is why they were aggressive at the deadline.
Right. And you wonder if it has any effects. Definitely we'll be tuning in for that one tomorrow again as the Avs get the winner of that series. We will finish up with the super chat we've got here. Boom, there we go. Nate Smith, $2. Thank you so much. What sweep was the bigger beatdown, Blues or Preds? I've got my answer. AJ, what do you think?
Well, none of the Blues games went into overtime.
Ooh, okay.
But I think it was Nashville because you had multiple games that felt very over halfway in.
Yep. Well, and dude, even that overtime game,
they so thoroughly dominated all game long.
That game was maybe like one of the most dominant performances of the series, and it was the closest score.
Like it was by far the most lopsided in terms of process. It was just Connor Ingram's day. And like you weren't worried about the Predators beating you. You were worried about some goofy bounce beating you. Right. So I really do. What they did to Nashville, like there were the scores got out of hand because of empty net goals at the end against St. Louis last year. But there were games that were like the games 3 and 4 especially like were tight. Those were like closer hockey games than the final scores indicated. And that wasn't outside of game 4, that wasn't really the case in the first 3 games. Like Colorado could have easily just Braziled them in each of those games. Like
I agree. To me, it was Nashville. The series felt over after game 2. Everyone kind of knew that was Nashville's probably best effort, and they didn't have it. I agree with you. A lot of these games felt done halfway through, and so did the series. So for me, it was this year felt like the bigger beatdown. Cool, AJ. We've gone really long. Thank you for anyone that is still listening. Our viewership looks like it's actually up a little bit from where it was earlier. So thank you guys for sticking with us. Big shout out to Marissa for helping make sure that you guys can see us, hear us, all that good stuff. And for sitting here listening to us for almost an hour and 20 minutes.
We will talk draft lotto probably tomorrow.
Yes. Yep.
And that kind of stuff, but with no Rudo today. I wasn't going to ask poor Jesse to sit through that.
No, and I know that Rudo likes doing that stuff anyway, so I'm glad we're going to wait for him. Cool. Well, yeah, AJ, always great chat with you, man. Glad to be back in town so we can be back on having this conversation because as we wind this first round down, it's only going to get more fun. For Marissa and AJ, I am Jesse Montano. This is the DNVR Avalanche Podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.